my name is David Paul. I'm the chairman of Aspire Mining. Aspire Mining is a Mongolian-focused ASX-listed developer of coking coal projects. This is for the one-to-one conference, and hopefully this is a brief summary that you'll strike your interest, and we can arrange a meeting for further detailed discussion. Just to present very briefly the investment case for Aspire. We own 100% of the Ovoot Coking Coal Project, which is a fat coking coal. It's very has similar characteristics to hard coking coal in northern Mongolia. Has reserves of 53.8 million tonnes for our starter project we call the OEDP, out of a total reserve of over 250 million tonnes. Production is going to be unlocked initially by what we call our OEDP, which confirms in a pre-feasibility study we completed in November 2019 of over $800 million and NPV and an accelerated return of nearly 50%. It's a low-cost producer on a global CFR comparative basis into northern China. Estimated life of mine C1 cash costs around $76 a tonne, with total cash costs of under $100 a tonne. China is currently favouring imports from Mongolia over Australia, and I'll mention a little bit further about that. I think it's going to be a bit longer, thing going on. There's relatively low capital intensity of approximately $260 million to get to this point to produce coking coal up to 4 million tonne per annum. We're waiting for a DFS to be completed. This process has been slowed by the lack of local community meetings that we have to proceed with in order to get environmental approvals. The COVID rules have really delayed that substantially. We're still working through other issues, and hopefully we'll be able to complete that work in the near term. We've got an excellent head start. We're very well funded. We have no debt, $35 million in cash at the 31st December. The major support of our major Mongolian shareholder, Mr Tserenpuntsag, as well as he's also committed to provide Australian $100 million in loan guarantees to support project funding going forward. Aspire Mining has 3 projects. Most of the value is in our Ovoot project, which is a large-scale, world-class coking coal asset. We also have a 80% interest in a company that owns a public-private partnership with the Mongolian government to build and operate and transfer a rail link from the Ovoot project through to Erfurt. This is currently in abeyance at the moment as the local Mongolian rail system is not unable to give us the needs that we require in the future in order to support the capital expenditure that's required. We also own 90% of a small but very high quality hard coking coal project around 200 kilometres to the west of Ovoot, called the Nursty project, and that's why they would certainly benefit from the infrastructure we're looking to put in place in the near term. The Ovoot board is well experienced. We've been working in Mongolia since 2010. We also have nominees from the Noble Group, our second largest shareholder, Hannah Badanac, as well as 2 nominees from Mr Tserenpuntsag, our major shareholder, one of which is our managing director, Mr Tserenpuntsag. We currently have a market capitalisation of some $50 million, and given the cash balance we have, our enterprise value is just $15 million Australian, so not much of a cash backing. This is a globally significant new coking coal project of significant scale. It's a discovery we made from 2010 to 2012. We've invested around $50 million in bringing it to this point. We have a mining licence, which was granted in August 2012, covers some 50 square kilometres. The type of coal we're talking about is a high fluidity caking fat coking coal, which is used in blending with other coals and in blast furnaces. There is no thermal coal percentage. While we initially looked at this project to start with as a rail-based connection to the city of Erfurt, where there is rail to China and Russia, the facts of the matter is that because of time and cost, it makes a compelling case to look at an early stage development based on trucking, where we've got identified an open pit with low mining costs, high yielding coking coal, which can form the basis of a starting process. With the OEDP, we're looking at, as I said, just a small percentage of our total resources being mined. Steady-state production starting at about 1.5 million tonnes, then building out to 4 million tonnes, with an estimated yield of some 85% overall from raw coal. This is a site plan showing the major pieces of infrastructure around the project. As you see, the OEDP is just a small part of the total overall resource. One of the benefits of the OEDP is that it's based, the timeline is being driven by the time it will take to build a road connection between the route to ERDNet, as opposed to a rail connection, which would take some 5 years. So we can be up and running within 18 months of completion of the feasibility study. Once it's at ERDNet, it does have to travel a further 1,000 kilometres by rail into northern China, where it then competes with imported coals from other sources, including Russia and Mongolia, and of course Australia on a CFR basis. It's purely a steel-making coal. Most of the opportunity, most of the value of the project actually is captured in this first 10 to 12 years. So it's quite an attractive proposition. The reason why it works is that while trucking costs are a significant proportion of the overall cost to the customer, the mining costs are very low because of low strip ratios, just 4.7 to 1 BCM per tonne, and high yield at 85%. As I mentioned, the capital expenditure requirement is around $260 million. Of that, most of that is actually the road to connect, so it's from $165 million. The operating cost is $76 a tonne, and total cost is $97 a tonne, to put us in the lowest quartile on a CFR equivalent basis into northern China. We've been monitoring those CFR prices for some time, and looking at both fat coal brands in the market in Tianjin, which would be our target market, versus Mongolian coal in that same market, as well as Australian imported coals. Interestingly enough, the Australian coals are now being priced at a significant discount to Mongolian coking coals, which and it has been occurring since around November 2019. In 2020, it was made clear that Mongolia has been designated as a preferred source of coking coal for Chinese steelmakers, and certainly the country will benefit from that in the longer term. Infrastructure is being added and improved with rail connections from Tabatolga, which is the largest deposit in the country, as well as improved logistics at Erenhot and at Early border in northern China. We're also looking at how we can actually deliver coal through the north, through Russia into northern China. That map on the right-hand side there with all the green dots are all steel mills in that particular region. As you can see, we are just to the north of the largest steel industry in the world by some distance. We're also experimenting with other forms of transport in terms of even using containers, mainly because one of our significant costs is transshipment. We moved from Russian gauge railway in Mongolia to Chinese gauge railway. And that transshipment cost can be modified and reduced substantially through containers, and it also has benefits in less product loss and less dust. The total community benefits of this project are enormous. 1,200 direct or indirect jobs, $260 million of investment in the northern part of Mongolia, and over $760 million over the first 10 years of this operation in royalties, which are distributed both nationally and locally. So just to recap, it's a strategic large coking coal project in northern Mongolia. It's one of Mongolia's largest JORC reserves, comprising 100% premium fat coking coal. We have an experienced board of directors and management, supported by a key Mongolian shareholder. We have a near-term, high-value and low-cost producer via the OEDP, which itself demonstrates how significantly undervalued we are, because we're just really trading slightly above cash backing. We've also, over the last 2 years, repositioned ourselves as a very Mongolian company to help us obtain the remaining approvals and also secure local project financing to support our targeted production. It's a very brief summary. Obviously look forward to speaking with you at the 1-1 conference. Thank you.